Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pontiac Enchanté. We're very excited tonight to be presenting our first concert of 2022 and the fourth concert in our 2021-2022 season. Alors, bienvenue et bonsoir, mesdames et messieurs, ici à Pontiac Enchanté. Je m'appelle Carson Becky, je suis le directeur artistique de cette série de concerts. Je vais parler la plupart aujourd'hui en anglais, mais bienvenue à tous nos amis francophones aussi. Our production team this evening involves my brother Tate Becky, who is also the co-director of this series, managing all of the visual things. So you're not going to see him because he's making sure that you can see all the performers. And Ross Murray, who's managing our sound and making sure that you can hear our wonderful cellists this evening. So here we are again. We're back to this live stream only format. And there's a lot of ways that you could look at where we are right now in a negative sense, but I'm going to try and see the positives. And I think the positives are, if you think back to what the world was like in February 2020, just before the pandemic, this is something that we never could have dreamed of doing, bringing out sort of home-produced live stream concerts. So we're thrilled to be able to do this, and even though we can't have you here in person, I think the takeaway is it's great that we've been able to do this, that the entire music world in general has found new ways of bringing music to people. Having said that, we're very excited to have you back here in person sometime soon. I'm hoping in late February, but in any case, we're going to keep bringing you music either in person or virtually over the following concert season. So you're all watching tonight's concert on our virtual concert hall. Just a few things to keep in mind that can make your viewing experience more enjoyable. First of all, make sure if you want to watch the concert full screen, you can press the little button in the bottom right hand corner of the media player. That will make the concert go to full screen. If you want to follow along the program, which I would suggest you do, click on the download concert program button. It'll open up a PDF of the program in a new browser window. That way you can make sure that the guys are actually playing the music that they say they're playing. And finally, and in a way most importantly for tonight, on the right-hand side of the screen, there's a button that says Donate. So, of course, we don't have an in-person audience today, so we don't have any revenues from ticket sales. So your donations tonight are essential. Please donate any amount that you feel is appropriate, whatever you can give, and that will allow us to keep putting on concerts like this. Something else that is totally essential for us to be able to do these concerts and to be able to run our series in general are our sponsors. And our sponsors have done huge amounts of work for us over the past almost 2 years of this pandemic, making sure that this series can continue to function, helping us buy our live stream equipment, making all the changes that we've needed to make these concerts work. So I just want to list all of our sponsors and give them all a huge thank you. So a massive thank you to Marg Campbell, to Dasha Schenkman, Norton Rose Fulbright, to RBC Rundell Wealth Management, Hello Ventures, and Bill Fenton in memory of Ruth Mary Harris. So again, thank you so much to all of our sponsors. You make it possible for us to do what we do. If this is your first time watching a Pontiac Enchanté concert, welcome. We hope to be welcoming you here in person sometime soon. The best way to keep in touch with us and to find out what's coming up next is to join our emailing list. And you can do that very easily right now. Just click on the button in the top right-hand corner of your screen. It says Join Email List. Don't worry, we're not going to spam you with hundreds of messages every month. It's just 1 or 2 a month to tell you what's coming up next. And importantly, in these times, tell you if those concerts are going to be happening with in-person audiences or if they're just going to be live streams. So that's by far the best way to find out what's coming up next year. You can also follow us on Instagram. We have an account. We've been posting a lot today. I took the two cellists up the mountain behind the farm here, so there's photos of them up there. And we also have a Facebook page. So those are 2 other ways that you can keep in touch with us here. So I think now all I have to do is to introduce our 2 wonderful musicians for this evening. So Brian Holt and Amal Aruladandam are 2 cellists based in Toronto. They've been playing as a duo since 2015. They've played across Canada. They're probably one of the most exciting young chamber ensembles that we've got in the country. And the program they're playing tonight features almost entirely new music, which is very exciting. If you think back to a lot of the music that we listen to in the classical world, was new at some point, but now we listen to it with 200, 100 years kind of hindsight. But this is all music that's kind of happening right now. So I'm so excited for them to bring you this program, and let's all welcome them to our virtual stage. Thank you very much.
We hope you enjoyed that first piece by Kati Agocs, I and Thou. Now you're probably wondering, how did we get all the way up here so quickly? Well, what's actually happening right now is that the two of us are retuning our cellos. This is a piece that uses a technique called scordatura, which means that our lower strings have been detuned to a different note. So my string has actually been tuned up one whole step to a D natural, and Amal's lowest string has been tuned all the way down to a G. It's quite a low note that you probably heard in that piece that sounds a little bit like a bass. Now this is a newer piece that we've been playing now. This is actually the first time we've performed it live, but it's probably one of the first contemporary cello duos that we heard. We met Dr. Agocs back in 2010 when we were part of the National Youth Orchestra of Canada, and we got a chance to play her work, Perpetual Summer. And we actually got to hear this piece performed at one of the faculty concerts, and it sort of stayed in our head and sort of made its way into the VC2 repertoire just recently.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Amal.
So, being a cello duo and being good friends, we often talk over each other or ignore what the other person says when discussing logistics. And so we're going to make a change in the program because of our own mistake. And we are going to, under program, you'll see Duet for Cellos by Youell Domenico. We're actually going to be now playing Heist 2 by Vincent Ho, followed by the Duet for Cellos by Youell Domenico. Heist 2 was a commission by Prairie Debut for us. They know Vince really well, and we got to know him over that time that he was composing the piece. And he's really into film noir and dark graphic novels and things like that. And there was a particular graphic novel that had a lot to do with mafiosos and bank robberies, and there was like a particular moment of a heist that stuck out to him. And so he kind of came up with this riff that's really inspired by 70s prog rock, with some more twists and turns in there, had us improvise some melodies over top of it, and he took some material from those improvisations, and then what you're about to hear is what he came up with. So we hope you enjoy Heist 2. Thank you very much. As we said, there was a slight change in the program, so what you just heard was Heist 2 by Vincent Ho. The next piece we're going to play is Duet for Two Cellos by Youell Domenico. Sorry, I'm a little out of breath here after that.
Yeah, we did just rob a bank, basically.
That's right. This Duet for Two Cellos is one of the first Canadian contemporary duos that we played together. It was created at a creative workshop setting in Toronto called Opus Testing and premiered by some friends of ours at that workshop. And then we later stumbled across it when we were kind of asking around for music that could be played for two cellos that was a little bit out of the norm. So we came across this and we really enjoyed it, and we've since played it a few times and decided that it was a good piece to bring back. And a lot of the music that you're going to hear tonight is going to be featured on an upcoming album that we're going to record in the spring. And this is one of those pieces. This is Duet for Two Cellos by Youell Domenico. Just going to retune quickly.
Thank you very much. We even might have gotten a little bit of a round of applause from the horses down below on that last one. There they are again. So we now move on to a work by a good friend of ours, a composer based in Montreal, Chris Paul Harman. We got to know Chris when we went to study in Italy for a short while at the Soundscape Festival where he was on faculty. And we got to know him there rather than at McGill, but when we were students there. But Chris has become a dear friend, and so dear that he wrote us this piece back in 2019. This has actually never received its live premiere. It was premiered as part of a series for Esprit Orchestra, I believe just a little while ago, about a year ago.
2020 December.
2020 December, that's right. 2021 December.
No, that just happened.
Right. But anyways, this is a work in 7 short movements based on the first cello suite of Johann Sebastian Bach. Now what Chris has done is taken it and kind of turned it all on its head. And there's a lot of times in this music where we are playing the same part but offset by just one note. So it creates a little bit of an echo effect. And for us, it's a bit of an effect that is somewhat tricky because sometimes we really want to play together at the same time. But without further ado, here are the 7 movements of Chris Paul Harman's Suite for 2 Cellos. Hi, everyone. We're going to take a short break from our performance to bring you this interview with Kelly Marie Murphy. Now, unfortunately, we had a few Zoom technical issues, which I'm sure everyone can relate to. And so during the interview, you actually won't see our beautiful faces. But we assure you we were there, and we hope that you enjoy this chat we had with one of our favorite composers. Hi, everyone. We're taking a brief break from our concert to chat with Kelly Marie Murphy about the next piece on this program, Final Glimpse, which was written for us a few years ago. And hi, Kelly. How are you?
Hi. I'm
So
good.
nice to see you
I'm
again.
good. I'm sorry. I had to remind you that the last time we worked together was March 2020 in Calgary, when we did this piece. The process for this piece was so different. I mean, I'm a composer that I love to have a story to tell, a narrative, a poem, a piece of art, news, whatever it is. I like that as my starting point. And then, of course, it's composing is a bit like being a tailor. Like you're trying to craft something for particular people, and so it kind of had a weird beginning because I decided that I had never done a tape piece, electronic piece, never experienced this. So I was taking a course at U Ottawa, and it was being taught by my grad student Julian Bertino, and it was how to use Ableton, which is this digital audio workstation, how to blend sounds, digital sounds with acoustic sounds. And so this was a week-long course, and I sort of just said, well, okay, I have to choose something to work with. So I thought it was very interesting, the Pathé newsreel, now that you can see them on YouTube, which is crazy. And I just started working with that. And then, our commission, and I thought, well, why can't I, blend these two things and, make something that I've never done before for you. So that was kind of the weird start to this whole thing.
That's right. And for those who don't know this, like, what is the story behind Final Glimpse?
So Final Glimpse is about the Hindenburg disaster, and sort of, I mean, I guess the crux of the piece, the real point of it is that throughout history we bear witness to things. Now, the disaster happened in May of 1937, but people had gathered, to watch something spectacular. They were going to watch, a big airship from Germany coming and landing in Lakehurst, New Jersey, and that was it. So people had gathered, the Pathé newsreel, all of the the news forums of the day. Everyone had gathered to witness this, and then it turns into a disaster. And I just thought it was fascinating to me. It's an iconic moment of the 20th century. If you remember the quote, "Oh, the humanity," is, and then the fact that news was consumed, like it had to be recorded, and then you'd have to go to a theater, and this was what preceded the light film that you might be watching, and this is how the news was consumed. And then I kind of thought about that in terms of present day, where everybody now, we have phones, and we started out, when we got our cell phones, we were like, I'm gonna take pictures of my food, and I'm gonna Insta that, and that'll be great. And then it started to be, we're recording actual historic events, tragic events, and so that kind of drew that connection to me. So I mean, the piece, it uses the Hindenburg and that Pathé newsreel sound footage. It uses that as the kind of the DNA for the piece, but I'm hoping that it has a connection into, you know, present day as well.
In regards to the newsreel, there was a particular sound that really caught your ear, that you crafted entire motives from in two sections of the piece. And so what was it? Maybe you could, for the audience that's watching, you could talk a little bit about that motive and why that sound sort of stuck out to you.
So I mean, anybody can go on YouTube and watch the Pathé newsreel, and there's kind of a musical score underneath it. You know, the da 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 is very 1937. But I wanted, you know, to start there, and then you hear the voiceover, and then you hear you know, the kind of dramatic telling of the story as you're seeing the footage. So that kind of dictated sort of where you know, tonally where I was, I guess. I don't know what your reaction was. I mean, you got the notes that I wrote, you got the score and your parts and everything, and then you get this tape component with, I mean, the actual sounds of the panic of the crowd when this, you know, when this hit the ground, and the flames and all of this. I mean, the sheer panic. I mean, how do you build that in? I think that's my wheelhouse. I know how to write panic. It's where I live.
Well, I think speaking of, you know, pieces with like electronics, like this is our first piece that we've played with electronics. I think we've both played individually pieces with electronics, but
Okay.
it was sort of a new element to have to do that with another person, you know, and playing sort of off of each other while still also playing sort of like in a bit more of a trio with this third part.
Yes, this is exactly. I mean, that was one of the sort of like, okay, if you're gonna if you're gonna go down this path at this stage in your career, you're gonna start writing electronic music, you have to think of that, you know, tape component as another performer. And that it was David Yeager who said that to me, CBC producer for a long time, also composer, and so that just like, oh, I get it now. I get it. And so, yeah, I made your duo a trio. So, and that adds a whole other thing, because I mean, you're kind of you're married to the click track, really, and the cues, but it's still music. It's still, there's still passion, there's still thread, there's still a through line, you know, all of these things. So I guess I just now I realize how difficult it is. I'm so sorry. You know that I love the cello, right? So and this started well, I wrote a string quartet and a piano trio, and then I think about the third commission of my career was a cello concerto for Shauna Rolston, and we both studied with Shauna. So, and it was like the king of instruments. It's a voice, and it's a drum, and it's like it's dark, and it's somber, but then there are these joyful, I love it. And so
you do too.
It's so expensive though.
Yeah.
Cellos are so expensive, and you know, they get the window seat. I just
yeah.
Traveling with a cello is not cool.
They don't get extra food and drinks.
Yeah, no extra food and drinks though. Yeah.
But all those things you described the cello as, the drum, an emotive instrument,
the voice,
yeah, soulful, that all kind of comes out in this piece in different ways, right? So we'll hear kind of all those different characteristics and different iterations of the cello come across in all of the different sections of Final Glimpse.
With the topic of this particular piece, I mean, it had to be tragic and emotional and yet panicked, right? So it's blending all those things. It's making sense of all of that, and I cellos were perfect for that.
Yeah, well, we're about to find out. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us, Kelly, and we're now going to roll right into Final Glimpse.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
The ill-fated Hindenburg on her last flight sails over New York. These pictures, made from a Pathé News plane less than 4 hours before the tragedy, show the world's largest airship heading for Lakehurst, New Jersey. Over Newark's famous auto skyway, the airship was hailed by thousands who little dreamed it was their final glimpse of the Hindenburg. It was their final glimpse. It was their final glimpse. It was their final glimpse. It was their final glimpse.
Well, we hope you really enjoyed Final Glimpse by Kellery Murphy. We now move on to a piece by a good friend of ours, Fjola Evans. This is a piece written for us back in 2017 as part of our Beethoven's Cellist project, which was our debut album, where we asked 5 Canadian cellist composers to write works based on the 5 Beethoven sonatas for cello and piano. So the piece that Fjola chose to base her work on was the 3rd cello sonata, which was in A major, and she chose to write a piece based on the scherzo movement, the fast movement, where she took the theme and basically slowed it down exponentially. She remembers hearing this theme a lot when she was very young in her grandmother's living room, listening to the record. It was sort of like a best of the cello album, and she remembered this melody very clearly, and that's why she chose to write her piece based on it. It's a piece that is titled Ridge and Furrow, which actually has to do with an ancient farming practice involving sort of tracing plow lines and then sort of retracing. And so how that works with the melody is that, again, we are sort of offset slightly, creating a bit of an echo effect, and it's an absolutely stunningly beautiful piece. We hope you enjoy Ridge and Furrow. After we tune once more.
So this is another one of those moments where we are frantically retuning our cellos before the last piece in the program. And as you can see, we're surrounded by this beautiful nature here up on this mountain amongst trees. And that's the topic of this last piece. It's all about trees. It's a piece by Giovanni Sollima, a Sicilian composer. And each movement is about a different tree. And we thought it really fitting to talk to you about this out here. The first movement is called Il Pino, pine tree. As you can see, we're surrounded by a lot of pine trees.
That's green trees.
Thanks so much for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy Arboreto Salvatico.
All right, so we realized that that wasn't quite enough time for us to retune our cellos, so we're going to tell you a little bit more about the piece. Amal mentioned that the first movement is named after the pine tree. There's actually two more movements in this piece, and they're all going to run attacca. That means they're all just going to run in sequence without any breaks. So the second movement
is called Il Tasso, which is the yew tree, which is kind of like a giant willow tree. And it's really beautiful and expansive, but it's a little bit poisonous, so you'll kind of hear the beauty in the music, but also this element of danger in kind of the driving rhythm of the music. And the last movement is La Sequoia, which is about a sequoia tree, which is like a giant redwood tree. And again, just in the way the music presents itself, you get this kind of feeling of this massive, beautiful red giant of a tree. So we're here on the Edley Escarpment, just a couple hundred meters over from where we were last time. And we're currently actually down there. So we'll see you back there in a second.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. We've had an absolutely amazing time here at Pontiac Enchanté, as you saw earlier with our nice little snowshoe up the mountain. Thank you so much to the Becky family for hosting us, Carson, Tate, everyone, for just making us feel so at home. These last couple days rehearsing here, it's been absolutely fabulous, after such uncertainty for such a long time. It's nice to play a concert again, even in a slightly different format. So thank you all again so much for tuning in. Please donate. Pontiac Enchanté is the best. We hope to see you at a live in-person concert in the future, but all the best to you in 2022.